Welcome back, everybody, to the Breakdown Podcast YouTube channel. My name's Corey, and in this episode, we are going to be discussing Star Wars: The Bad Batch, Episode 9 of Season 1. With me today is my co-host. It's Vic. He's in one of these corners.
That's me. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Breakdown Podcast. Super happy to be here, and of course, always happy to watch The Bad Batch.
Yep. And before we get started, we do want to let you know we do the show live every 7 p.m. Eastern on Twitch on Tuesdays. It's twitch.tv/MillerKing_51. The link is in the description below. So if you want to join us and join the discussion, we are currently talking The Flash and Loki on the show. So come by and check us out and have some fun with us while we record. And also, be sure to hit the subscribe button. It does help us out immensely, and we would appreciate it. And you can hit the notification button to let you know when we do put out new videos. So, without further ado, Vic, let's break it down.
All right. As Corey said, this is episode 9 of The Bad Batch. It's called Bounty Lost. And it's pretty on the nose.
Yeah.
As far as it goes. So at the end of last episode, Cad Bane had defeated Hunter, taken Omega, and absconded off with her to hand her over to Nala Se, the Prime Minister of Kamino, who has hired him to capture her and bring her back because he wants her genetic material. We've heard this before. This is not new. This is very much what Werner Herzog said to the human cloner in Mandalorian. Get the material and dispose of it. Like, that's exactly kind of the same sentiment as we had in The Mandalorian. Which then even more pushes me towards the fact that she is a very, very special version of the clones. And I think this is leaning me more towards my crackpot theory is that she is force sensitive. And I'm just saying,
but see, here's the thing. We already know. We find out in this episode also that Boba Fett is the Alpha.
Right.
Which, to his credit, Vic kind of called last episode and said that, because, Boba is a direct, clone of Jango. And so everybody else is just a little bit off. But this puts her back to puts her up to his level now, and Vic kind of called that. But the thing is, neither one of them have any force abilities. So, and it seems like she sort of does.
You have to remember.
So where does she get it?
That she's actually younger. She was created from the Alpha strain, which was Jango. She's unedited as far as like age progression and what they did to make them more docile. She doesn't have an inhibitor chip. So when you think about it, obviously, though they created her to be, she's different. One, she's a girl. Two, out of all of them, she's the only one with naturally blonde hair. They've obviously done something. They've edited her genome somehow to make her different. And I think that difference is the fact that they somehow, incorporated some like Jedi DNA in there somewhere is my real thought.
Sure.
And like I said last time, I think that at some point while Obi-Wan was on Kamino, they got a little bit of his genetic material somehow. I don't know what they did, but
Here, you know what? I'm going to do it. It's going to be as simple as this. There's some kind of flashback, right, to when he's there, and like a hair or something, falls off, and they pick it up and they keep it back, and that's where they take the DNA from.
Yeah. So basically,
just an idea.
The Bad Batch is chasing down Cad Bane to try to find her. She's family. She's their little sister. They're gonna find her. They're gonna save her from Cad Bane. I
keep thinking you're gonna say Cadbury.
So he is instructed by Nala Se to take her to the abandoned Kamino research facility on I can't remember what planet it was now.
Now, my first thought was that it was Cloud City.
No, it was. If you look at it, you can tell that it's just another. It's another. It did very much look like Cloud City, but it's obviously like where their new city is in water. They tried to make this one like up in the sky and in the clouds, so it's a cloud-esque city kind of thing. But it's obviously still a research facilities. If you look at it, it looks exactly the same as the Camino research facility they're in. So this was probably like a prototype for that facility before they kind of finalize, because obviously when they're there, she's kind of walking around, and she after I'm going off here. Hold on, let's go through the actual story.
No, let's just roll with it. Just roll with it.
Okay, so after they figure out that she is the Omega to Boba's Alpha, she at this point in existence, Boba Fett is about 13-ish years old, based on what we know from the Clone Wars. She's supposed to be around 10 years old, so she's about 3 years younger, which would make sense because during the war lasted about that long, and she's never experienced the war. She came about after the war was over, so she's been around, just long enough for her to be not to miss the war. So if that's the case, and she's that much younger, and they've been working on it. So they had plans on making her into the next. They need that genetic material because, like they said earlier, all of the other clones they have are kind of copies of a copy of a copy. So the lines are starting to get blurry. She is a perfect image of the DNA.
It's
from
just
Jango
like
Fett.
it's just like in the movie with Michael Keaton, Multiplicity, where he kept making copies of himself, but the more copies he made, the dumber his copy of himself got.
Yeah, that makes sense. So she escapes from Cad Bane when Fennec Shan shows up, and we find out that there is a schism in the Camino hierarchy, because Namaste wants her to kill her. Lama Su wants to save her. And
can't they come up with some different names that are different?
No, that's just the way they do it. But we find out that she's the one who hired Fennec Shan to retrieve Omega and save her from, the oncoming onslaught of being chased down by the Prime Minister. And we find out that Fennec that's why she was so nice to her when she tried to kidnap her the first time. She was trying to play it off like, hey, I'm your friend, I'm a girl, you're a girl, let's rock this out together. You don't have to stay with these guys, I can protect you, let's go. And she wasn't able to do that because she couldn't save her. One thing that I did forget though is there's the scene where Cad Bane is kind of holding her hostage in his ship. The entire time, like, I had this really horrible thought, and it basically comes from Dio. So in the movie where we meet Dio, what's her name? Rey says, oh, someone must have abused him. And I was like, who abuses droids like that? Like, what owner abuses droids? But we definitely saw Cad Bane as an abusive father to Todo 360, because he gets his leg shot off. He won't take the time to help him fix him. He's trying to fix himself. He's using his leg as a cane because he can't walk right. And he's sitting there trying to fix himself the whole time, and obviously we know that the reason Omega wants to help him is so she can escape, which is great on her. She's like, I can befriend this little droid, get him to open a thing, make him think I'm helping him, and then knock him the F out. And that's exactly what she did, and it was perfect, and that's how she escaped.
Well, I mean, to be fair, droids aren't supposed to have emotions anyway.
Right.
So abusing him like that, he's not going to know the difference.
It's blind loyalty, and he holds on to it the entire time, which is fine. It's just really kind of cringy to watch how badly he treats that droid. And especially since that droid seems more sentient than most droids do on a regular basis. When he communicates, he talks to him like he's like his partner, but he's his whipping boy at the same time. So it's just really weird. But when she escapes, he ends up she fixes his leg for real. Then she knocks him out, and when Cad realizes what happened, she goes after him. I love the visual of, because all of the windows are busted out, you have all the like the mist and the clouds are all inside of the building. And when Fennec comes out, like you get this image of Cad Bane like walking out of the mist. It's just like every bit of the imagery in this was just phenomenal. And as Fennec and Cad are fighting, she kind of escapes. The Bad Batch is like, hey, you need to send out a signal so we can figure out where you are so we can come and get you. And she's like, how do I do that? She's like, you need to turn on the the repeater and send out a signal. So she gets into the control room, she turns it on, she gets the satellite dish to send out the signal so they can figure out where she is. While she was doing that, she found that there is an escape pod that she could use to get away from all of them until they came and found her. So she works her way down to the escape pod. She ends up jumping inside, and she takes off.
You did forget one thing.
What?
She did see a bunch of tanks.
Oh, that's there too. Right. That's actually a really good point that I'm glad you brought it up. There was another scene that was kind of rather poignant when she was walking through. She was going through the laboratory, and she sees the big green nasty tanks that are exactly like the big green nasty tanks that they had in Mandalorian.
What?
And exactly like the big green nasty tanks that they had in Rise of Skywalker. What
was it, Rise of Skywalker? I couldn't remember which one. I knew it was one of those crappy movies, but
and at one point, to escape from Fennec Shand, she manages to knock one of those tanks loose, and the body in it like falls on Fennec Shand. I was like, oh, that's got to be the worst thing to ever happen to anyone.
I was really hoping she'd stand up and say she slimed me, but it didn't happen.
But right before that happened, when she first walked in that room, she was kind of looking in that tank and kind of looking at her own reflection in the tank, and she had this look on her face like, is this really what I am? Like, I think she had like this moment of like, this is all I am. Like this is exactly what they're gonna do to me if I don't get away from here. And I think she had that moment where she was just like, all right, it's fight or flight, and I'm out of here. And that's when she takes off. The Fennec Shand Cad Bane fight was excellent, like them fighting each other to kind of a standstill. Though I think that if you were to score the fight, it definitely goes to Cad Bane. She just kind of got lucky on a number of occasions. But when she flips him off of that thing and he ignites his jet boots and flies back up, there's a portion where he gets up over the edge of the thing and he kind of tries to lean himself in, and then he kicks his leg out to give him enough thrust to get onto that ledge.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's a detail that they didn't need to do, but it very much shows the physics of the world. Like, he didn't just like fly up and land and everything was good. Like, he had to kind of finagle his way up there, and I thought that was a really interesting piece of animation, because they didn't need to do it, but they did anyway, and I thought that was really good.
They did manage to get a shot in there that I liked. That was almost like, it was, they were waiting on the clock to strike 12 so they could shoot, because they were having this stare down, down Main Street of.
It was the same thing as he did with Hunter.
Yeah.
Except Hunter got blasted in the chest. So we do see the general superiority of Fennec Shand. Oh, one other thing that was a nice throwback from the movies. When Lama Su sent his attaché to go pay for to pick up Omega, he sent Taun We. And I don't know if you remember, but Taun We is the exact Kaminoan that introduced Obi-Wan to Jango Fett in the movie. So they're actually using, she's the actual one that because remember when he walks in, he's like, hey Dad, Taun We's here. That was her. So they murdered her in the cartoon after having her in the movie, which I thought was pretty interesting too. But basically,
I guess this is after that.
Yeah. But when it's all said and done, Fennec basically rescues Omega. Omega gets free. Omega launches herself in that pod that was damaged, for one. And it ends up being retrieved by the Bad Batch. They catch her midair and they use their tractor beam to bring her up, and they get her back. And they then have to explain to her, they're like, you need to tell her. And she's like, tell me what? And he's like, you're not the only like original, but you are the last original, and that's why they want you so bad. And we see that at the end when Nala Se is talking to Fennec, she's like, yeah, she's like, I didn't get her, and she's like, that's okay. They didn't get her either, so it's fine. And she's like, well, do you want me to go after her? She's like, no, just, I'll send you your money. You're good. And she's like, well, if you need me, just let me know, and you know where to find me. So she called off Fennec. So I don't know if we're gonna see Fennec again, but I feel like Fennec kind of has this like affinity towards Omega, to where she kind of looks at her like a little sister and wants to help her. But this is not the main thing that I got out of this episode. The biggest question I got out of this episode, and I kind of answered it a little later on, but we'll talk about it real quick. So Fennec Shand is in this episode, right? How old would you think Fennec Shand is in this episode? Like, what age do you think she is?
Oh, we're gonna play the age game, huh?
Yeah, I'm thinking she's got to be like 20-ish, 20-something, right? Because here's my problem.
Well,
go ahead.
No, go ahead, because I would just be thinking out loud.
So here's my problem. So at this point, Boba Fett is around 13, 14 years old. Omega's around 10 or 11 years old, right? When we get to The Mandalorian, obviously Boba Fett's been through the ringer because he got swallowed by the freaking the Zardak pit. But and twice, honestly. He's been through it, but technically I think Fennec is supposed to be like 15 years older than him. Because at this point, Boba Fett's like 40 some odd years old. It's supposed to be like 40 some odd years old when we see him.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
So if that's the case, then Fennec Shand has to be like 50 something. And I was like, that's
no. I think in
old.
this, if Boba Fett, if we're talking Boba's 13, she could be like 28 right now.
So she's 16, 17 years older than him? So it's 16 or 17 years older than him. At 40, she's 57 in The Mandalorian. Did she look 57? I mean, she's 57 now, I think. I think she's like 50 or 60, 50, 58.
Yeah,
50,
I mean, what's her real age?
I think she's like 58 in real life.
Then there's no problem.
But I came up with the answer for it, though.
I mean, granted, the actor that plays Boba Fett, I'm sure, is much older than her, but that's not the point.
But
I mean, they could play younger.
Figured out what it is. Because while this was all going on, I'm like, she can't be that old, but like, they make her look like she's that old. She doesn't look that old, but we know she's older than him at that point. She's like 16 years older than him. And if that's the case, how does she look so damn good? One, because she aged well in real life, but by the story, when we see her, she's an android. I don't think that what we saw in Mandalorian was fully her, because obviously they showed that she had like robotic parts. So there's only parts of her left. She's been General Grievous. You see what I'm saying?
Did we know that before?
Yeah, because they showed it when they show her in the thing. She pulls up her shirt. She's got robotics in her gut. Like
I thought that was just in that area.
No, in the Mandalorian, she's got robotics in her gut. And if that's the case, then that means that she's been like blasted in half at some point, and they put her back together. And mind you, I think they did this because that way they can bring Darth Maul back into things. But I realized and asked that question. I'm like, how in the hell could she possibly be there, be that spry, be that, that whatever? But then I was like, they answered it already for us, because we know that at some point she's going to get messed the F up, because they had to replace most of her with robotic parts. So
yeah,
it makes sense now. But that was just a weird thing that popped in my head as I'm watching it. I'm like, that is a very big age discrepancy.
and you could also say that Boba doesn't age. He ages differently since he's a clone.
No, he ages like a normal person.
Well, I mean, they could use that if they really wanted to.
Well, no, they wrote that out of the story, because they said that there's been no growth changes. There's been no augmentation of his growth hormone. Growth. So he's supposed to grow up like a normal kid, just like Omega is. So it's interesting, but I'm still holding the fact that Omega it's not necessary that she is a Jedi. You can be Force sensitive and not be a Jedi. But the fact that they were able to clone someone that's force sensitive means that you could probably expound upon that and make someone like the Emperor or clone a Jedi, which actually has been done in the extended universe, but in this they haven't done it yet. But
I have, in the end, it's going to end up tying into the first season of Mandalorian.
Well, I think
it's going to end up explaining. It's going to end up explaining all of it.
All I want to know is if this season, if there is no season 2 of the Bad Batch, like if they kill off the Bad Batch or they have them ride off into the sunset and go off to hide, I'm hoping that they do something with Omega that puts her into the live action world somehow, whether they tie her in through the Book of Boba or whatever it is. But she really needs to become like a bounty hunter or like something, some kind of a rebel, hero or something. Then I want to see her either as live action down the road in one of the shows, or at least make some kind of reference so that we think maybe it could be her kind of situation.
Oh yeah.
Like that's what I want to see happen. So
I'm sure they will.
Great episode. Sure I love the action in it. I love the fighting in it. I'm really happy we got to see Fennec Shand again. I like that they did a little bit more with the cloning situation. The fact that we know that this was definitely not their first time. That's what they do. We know that's what they do. We found that out in episode 1 or 2 or whatever it was. And we know that they're just they're devious. They're just in it to make money, and they're literally like any other defense contractor in the existence. They're just there to make money off of their product, and those clones are their product, but they're about to lose their product line because they don't have any way. They lost the schematic. They can't build any more of them because their only schematics have both disappeared. So we'll see where it goes. We have a few more episodes to go before the end of the season, and they're getting better and better for me. So what do you think?
I'm enjoying it. This episode wasn't bad. I enjoyed some of the cinematic shots in terms of showcasing Cad Bane and some little clues, some little Easter eggs to what has previously happened in other shows and other Star Wars stuff, and possibly clues to what's going on, what we may see in the future. So definitely interested to see where it goes from here. So on behalf of Vic,
that's me.
I'm Corey. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time.
See ya.